and thank you for joining me for this very special presentation, A Conversation with Bob Sievers. I'm Jane Avery Doswell. Bob has been the voice of WoWo land in this area for a number of years. Many of us can't even remember growing up without hearing his voice on the radio. In fact, he's our own local Walter Cronkite. Many of us have heard Bob do his presentations over the past, telling us about his experiences in broadcasting, and we want to share some of those with you tonight, and also maybe get Bob to expand a little bit more on some topics in terms of thoughts that he had in the past, or maybe what he's thinking about is going to happen as we approach this new millennium. But anyway, whatever we end up discussing tonight, we know it's going to be very interesting to everyone in the audience, because Bob has just been such a legend and a local gem for us all to enjoy. So join me now as I introduce to you Bob Sievers.
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks for being here tonight.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Normally, I'm out speaking on my 50 years in radio. Actually, it's been a lot longer than that. But I want to tell you how I got started in radio. Would you like to hear that?
I do want to know that.
First of all, when I was a boy, there were three major makes of radio: Philco, Atwater, Kent, and Majestic. And what inspired me to becoming an announcer, the old Majestic Hour, they had as their theme song, Pomp and Circumstance. And with that in the background, the announcer would say, "From the boundless everywhere comes the magic name Majestic, mighty monarch of the air." And I would rehearse that and tell my mother, "I'm going to be a radio announcer someday." She'd say, "Robert, get that out of your mind. You're going to be brokenhearted. I can't send you to college. I don't want you to be brokenhearted." I said, "Nothing is going to keep me from that." She said, "Oh, don't talk that way." Well, anyway, I spent my entire life on the south side of Fort Wayne, and the Gospel Temple on Rudisill Boulevard broadcast on WoWo, and I hung around there and got to carry the microphone from the choir to the minister. They had only one microphone. And to me, that was the biggest thrill in the world to carry that one microphone. I thought, oh, if I could only talk into it. But
How old were you then, Bob?
about 13. And so I got to carry the microphone there and one day, and they were also on the air in the morning on the morning radio Bible class. And one day the radio operator didn't show up. And they thought they couldn't go on the air. I said, "Well, I can put you on the air." They said, "Do you know how to run all these controls?" I said, "Oh, sure." I had it all memorized. In the old days, for instance, I knew I could run a streetcar. I'd see the old motorman take the big rubber, go around this way, and we'd go. And we'd go to stop, he'd bring it back and use the air brake. Well, the same way on the radio controls, I became the engineer, and the broadcast went fine. So then one day, WoWo said, if you could just, the Temple, if you could have somebody sign the station on the air, we wouldn't have to bring an announcer in. So I said, I will. So every morning all through high school, I carried my Route 64 Journal-Gazette paper route on Bowser and Oliver from the Key to Rudisill. Then I would go to the Gospel Temple and sign on WoWo and then go to school.
Do you remember what your sign-on was for that? Did you
Well,
write it yourself? And
Oh, yes, but
been too
we
long?
were on 1,160 kilocycles then. And after I signed on, and our first broadcast this morning was the morning radio Bible class from Rudisill Boulevard in Clinton and Fort Wayne. And when I graduated from high school, I would go down on WoWo's door every 2 weeks, and I'd knock on the door for a job. And they would say, "No, we are not hiring today." And pretty soon I'd knock again, and they'd say, "There's that doggone kid again. Tell him to get lost." And so one morning after the broadcast, Paul Rader said, "Well, Bob, you believe the Lord answers prayer, don't you?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, let's just kneel down here on the rug and pray that you get into radio." So we did, and he put his big hand on the back of my neck, and I almost had that goose-pimply feeling like the power of the Lord was right there. And we prayed that I would get into radio. And 2 days after that prayer, and I had been knocking on WoWo's door for 2 years, my phone rang at home, and they said, "Are you Bob Sievers?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "We just wondered if you had ever thought about getting into radio." And they said, "We heard you do a commercial on the Back Home Hour the other Sunday evening." So had I ever thought, But nobody can convince me beyond any shadow of a doubt that it was an answered prayer that I got into radio.
Oh, well, I certainly think it sounds
And I
that way.
speak to career days to boys and girls all over the area, graduating from high school, and I'll ask them what they want to do, and they'll say, well, I think I might be a lawyer, or I think I might be a doctor. And I would tell them, forget it. Know what you want to do beyond any shadow of a doubt, and work to that end, and pray to that end, and nothing can keep you from being what you want to be. Mm-hmm. And then I end up telling them my favorite sentence I got from Glenn Steebing in my Foster Park Lions Club, a 10-word sentence made up of 2 letters each word. If it is to be, it is up to me.
That's absolutely right.
I'm going to have a sip of coffee. My mouth is getting very
You
dry.
go right ahead and do that.
And anyway,
Well, Bob, when they called and asked you if you'd ever thought of that, of getting into radio, did they realize they were talking to the kid that'd been down there every 2 weeks?
No. Well, oh, no, when I went down there, no, they didn't. They said, well, you look familiar. Then they found out. I might mention one unusual experience I had on the platform of the Gospel Temple. This was in 1938, and I think this gentleman was about a year or 2 older than me. I was there on the temple platform with him, and he was auditioning to be the next minister at the Gospel Temple. Paul Rader had just left, and they were interviewing him along with Clifford Hollifield, whom they did hire. And they turned this young man sitting beside me down, and he was brokenhearted. And he said, I said, oh, that's a shame. He said, well, Bob, I'll make it someplace else. And the young man whom they turned down and didn't think had any chance of being a success as a minister in life was none other than Billy Graham.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I'm not. So those are I have lots of those stories to tell at the end of the program today. I did want to mention, Jane, some of the early stars that I worked with, and I know many listening tonight will remember some of these stars. Ambrose Haley and Little Mary Lou. And I understand Little Mary Lou has grown up and now lives up somewhere around Rome City. And I'm sure somebody will remember her. Joe Trim, the Black Hawk Valley Boys, Norman Bob, Nancy Lee and the Hilltoppers, Kenny Roberts, the famous yodeler, Howard Ropaw. In fact, I thought of him as I drove down Broadway, coming here into the old Jokel Supply on Broadway, his old homestead there. Happy Herb Hayworth, Fitz and the Fellows, Gene Brown, the old songsmith, Jay Gould, Sarian Elmer, who was Shirley Bowersox, and by the way, she's still living, Percy Robbins, Marguerite Hitzman, Fern Gable, Hilliard Gates, and I could go on and on.
And these are all Fort Wayne people.
All local Fort Wayne talent. I did want to mention one thing. You know, even in those days, Jane, we had serial stories, soap operas.
Oh, okay,
I announced 3 of them. One was Linda's First Love. In fact, I think she had about 17 loves while I was her announcer.
Oh, wow.
One was Mary Foster, the editor's daughter, and one was One Man's Family. So I'm sure that'll bring back memories to others.
Oh, I'm sure.
Some of the early announcers I worked with. Lester Spencer, Joe Railing, whom I understand is still living in Fort Wayne and calling square dances.
Oh,
J. Howard Ackley, John Hackett, Bill Robbins, and I could go on and on. We had one news announcer, Bob Wilson, who always signed off his newscast by saying 73 and good night.
What'd that mean?
I was going to ask you if you knew that.
No.
Well, 73, because I'm a radio ham, an amateur, and 73 in International Morse code means best regards. And it means best regards if you say 73, whether it's in Chinese or German or you name it. So he always said 73 in best regards. At that same time, on WLW Cincinnati, Peter Grant would always sign off by saying good night and 30s. And 30 in International Morse code is end of transmission.
Oh, wow.
So, but people didn't, but they always said, why does he say 30 or why does Bob say 73?
Now, did you have a sign-off code like that, or?
No, I didn't. I would just go into my last number and Most of the time, I didn't even have time for my theme song. But I had a Man on the Street program for 25 years in Fort Wayne, from Calhoun and Berry, the Baber Corner. Actually,
Right.
it was from the many corners. We started out at the old Roxy Grill. Then we went to the M. Boyd Theater. It was M. Boyd in those days and not Embassy. And then Golden's Menswear and the Grand Leader Corner. The last 20 years was from the Baber Corner, Calhoun and Berry. But in all kinds of weather, even if it were 10 below zero, I would be out there, one moment, please, talking to the people. And the thing is, in those days, downtown Fort Wayne was crowded. We all, and at the last 2 minutes, I didn't want to disappoint anybody. The last 2 minutes, I'd go around, let's see, who else is here today? And I'd let each person give their name so they could go home and say, did you hear me on the radio?
And that would be a big deal.
Yes, it was. So I enjoyed that.
It's kind
Oh.
of sad to see that Fort Wayne, the downtown, I mean, if you did that today, you'd have a very
Oh.
limited group of people to talk to.
I'd have to talk to the first stray dog that came along. Yeah.
That's right. You talked about the stars you got the chance to interview. Is there someone that you wanted to that you never got a hold of?
Yes.
Who was that?
The probably Bing Crosby.
And why did you want to talk to him?
Well, because I had listened to him all my life. He was, in every decade, he was the top star. And now when I was interviewing these stars at the Palace Theater, I'd interview Charlton Heston, Perry Como, and people like that.
Wow.
Charlton Heston, by the way, was just a budding artist in those days. And but I always really wanted to interview Bing Crosby, but I never got to do that.
Were any of these people that you interviewed, were you just kind of starstruck by him and just kind of lost yourself and
Yes,
fell all over
one
yourself?
unusual experience. I always liked Orrin Tucker's orchestra, and the vocalist with him was Wee Bonnie Baker. And I think she had the song Oh Johnny, and I always liked Wee Bonnie Baker, and I never thought that someday I would be kissing her.
Oh.
This happened at North Crest. I can't remember the name of the nightclub, but it was Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, and they had the mistletoe hanging in the lobby, and she called me over after we finished the band and gave me a New Year's Eve kiss. And I thought, if anybody would ever taught me, someday I'll be kissing Wee Bonnie Baker, that was...
So some of your dreams came true.
Yes. I talk about the ratings. You might wonder why my ratings were so high.
Well, I think you're wonderful, but I suppose
No,
they
no.
based it on more than that,
But
huh?
the 5 hours I was on the air, I considered this your 5 hours, the listener. And anything I could do to help you, I did. For instance, if a little elderly lady lost her dog, I would have it on the air. It would only take 10 seconds of my time. But if I could help her find her dog, maybe that was her whole family.
Oh, sure.
And I know in my life what my dogs have to me, even though I have a family. Finally, one day the manager called up and said, Severs, if you put any more dog announcements on the air, I'm going to let you go. And lo and behold, the next morning, this little elderly lady had lost her little brown dog. I said, folks, I have a heck of a problem this morning. I said, the boss told me that yesterday, if I put any more dog announcements on the air, I would be fired. I said, wouldn't you know a little elderly lady has just called me from Rudisill Boulevard and has lost her little brown dog, and I'm not allowed to talk about it, but I'm talking about it.
You sneak.
So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I have her name and telephone number, and I'll stuff it in my shirt pocket. When I get off the air, if you find this dog, you call me, and I'll tell you who he is. And we got her dog back.
Good for you.
And it got to be a standing joke. Jay Gould would come in for the Little Red Barn in the morning, and he'd look at my shirt pocket. He said, Severs, you got any more lost dogs stuffed in your shirt pocket this morning? I had, then, for instance, I was out speaking then all the time, and I spoke to a number of heating secretaries one night. And they said, Bob, if you'll just give us the degree days in the morning, all 300 of us won't have to call the Weather Bureau. And I said, degree days, what the heck are they? Well, now when you hear them give degree days, they have to be computed after the day has passed. Let's say yesterday the temperature averaged 40 degrees. Well, you would subtract 40 from 65, and we would have had 25 heating degrees yesterday. If the temperature averaged 65 the whole 24 hours, we would have no degree days. If it only averaged 0, we'd have 65. In Fort Wayne, on the average winter, we have 6,205 degree days.
Whoa.
Then, of course, in the summertime, they have cooling degree days, you know.
Right.
But so I knew every morning when I gave that degree days, I would have those 300 ladies tuned in. They wouldn't have to make the telephone call. So I was helping them. In the fall of the year, I would help fishermen going up to Lake Michigan. I'd say the trout are running this particular week up such and such a river, next week up such and such a river. Take care of the fishermen. Lady would call me when the first robin was sighted. Usually they come back in February. In fact, I saw a robin in my yard the other day out here at Winterset. I thought he must be awfully stupid. He hadn't gone south yet. But a lady, you know, robins can't eat birdseed.
They can't.
Oh, no, robins can't eat birdseed. And they can't dig the ground for fish worms in the wintertime. So they are only fruit and meat eaters. So this lady would tell me, when you see robins, I'd tell my listeners, for goodness sakes, when the first robins show up, don't throw them in the yard, but take raisins and put them on the sidewalk that's clean where they can see them. And that's one reason 3 years ago I hated to move from my old home. I had the same robin come back to my yard every year for 6 years in a row. And the reason I know it was the same robin, he'd have a white feather in his right wing, and his right wing hung down a little bit. And about the middle of February, Harriet and I would be sitting there having our coffee. She'd say, look, look, look. And I'd look down, and here's the robin with his nose at our door saying, hey, Bob, I'm back. Get the raisins out. In those days, we had transcriptions, too, that were 16 inches in diameter and at 33 RPM. And they were all of our commercials recorded on transcriptions as well. So I would have to take a stack of transcriptions like that. Maybe this Chevrolet spot was on transcription 17, cut B. I'd have to hunt that up. And the three biggest changes, I think, in radio, when we went from transcriptions and records, in 1947, tape was invented. And now that same, rather than hunting through the stack of records, I put out the Chevrolet spot cartridge and put it in the machine and press the button.
Now, did you think that was a great advancement?
So I think, oh my gosh. and my last story tonight, I'll tell you, will be involved with tape. So the invention of tape, from a technical standpoint, the invention of tape and transistors, to me, were the biggest changes in the entire industry.
Had you foreseen or thought something like those things would come around, or did you just know that it was going to progress to that?
No, a few years before we had tape, we had wire, the old Webcor wire recorders, but it would get all tangled up. No, I never, I didn't foresee that. But then some of the other big changes in radio, in addition to the development of tape, was the development of FM broadcasting, and then FM stereo, and a few years after that was television. But those three big changes, but my last story will involve tape also, but those were the biggest technical changes. Now, from a program standpoint, in those days, everything was music. Talk shows weren't even heard of, you know. And then maybe 15 or 20 years ago, talk shows started. And they're quite popular now. All you have to do is tune across the band at night. But another thing that's shocking to me is shock talk radio.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you think talk radio has added any quality to radio?
It has from a number of standpoints, but not from that standpoint. My favorite talk show host, one of them is Bruce Williams at night. I'll tune across the band.
I like him.
Listen to Bruce Williams, or Jim White down in KMOX St. Louis, or Michael Reagan on WoWo at 9 o'clock. And my wife thinks he's a character, but I think he's fascinating. From midnight till 5 a.m., I'm always tuned to Art Bell.
You listen to the radio all night?
Well, in other words, if I don't have the radio on, I can't go to sleep. I think of all the things I have to do tomorrow.
Oh.
I listen to a talk show, and in 5 minutes I'm asleep. But maybe 2 hours later I'll wake up, and I'll listen again for a while. But so I like talk radio. But the shocking thing to me is some of the language and the stories you hear on some talk radio. I think our morals are going down the drain. And I said if we don't start improving, 100 years from now, I think our country will go the way of the old Roman Empire. We're just lowering our standards continuously. But I like good talk radio.
Why do you think that's happening? Is it people just don't care? Or they confuse that with freedom? Or what do you think it is that makes people, and why do people listen to that?
I'd have to give that some thought. I don't know. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't want to commit myself.
Very good.
Our morals are going down the drain, though, and it's just shocking what some people get away with. I can remember when I was a disc jockey years and years ago, if a hit record came out and it had the word hell or damn in it, we wouldn't touch it for a ton of bricks. Or
right.
else we would re-record it and edit that part out. Now, that's nothing compared to what you hear now, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
But,
Absolutely.
So I don't know, but that's the shocking thing to me is the way our morals have changed. I was talking to my daughter Cynthia, in fact, last night in the restaurant where I saw you.
Yeah.
She said, Daddy, she thinks the pendulum is going to start going the other way. They're going to start cleaning things up.
I sure hope so. I sure hope so. Are you surprised, Bob, that radio has remained as popular as it has with all the other
Yes, I am,
mediums?
because when TV first came out and when FM first came out, I felt that especially AM radio was going down the drain. But now, that huge piece of pie with all of the dozens of stations, they're programmed to one group likes this kind of music, they're going to have that station tuned in. So it's individual programming, but and I think radio has come back to it's almost as strong as ever. Because, but I am frankly surprised that it came back like it did.
And I would think you might be a little surprised too when you listen to the radio today that some of the sounds are coming back, like the swing. You know,
Oh, yes.
my daughter's in high school.
Oh, yes, the big
love
bands are
swing.
beginning.
Yes.
The big bands are beginning to come back. So maybe like my daughter said, that's the pendulum beginning the other way.
I'll get that for you.
Oh, by the way, what I dropped and didn't use, remember when I told you the Billy Graham story?
Yes.
That was in 1938.
Yep.
This was sent to me in the mail the other day. I got it from Bob Henchen, my neighbor over on River Hayes. It says, why did Emily Kavanaugh break her engagement to William Franklin Graham in 1938? It says, because she wanted to marry a man who was going to amount to something and didn't think Billy Graham was ever going to make it.
Oh.
I usually tie that in with my story. I wanted to tell you, a lot of people in Fort Wayne will remember my old music teacher, and she was a favorite friend of mine, and I remember all of my teachers, by the way, was at Harrison Hill School, was Verda Mae Ziegler. And when I was in the 8th grade, our glee club was going to broadcast, and they auditioned 2 people to be the announcer. I was one, and Richard Shannon, Judge Shannon's son, was the other.
I'll be darned.
He may be listening tonight. If you are, hi, Dick. And so she picked Richard Shannon because he was from the Southwood Park area, and Judge Shannon's son, and I was really a nobody from the other side of Lafayette Street. So on her deathbed about 10 years ago, my phone rang from a lady at St. Anne's Nursing Home. She said, Bob, would you come out to see your former music teacher, Verda Mae Ziegler? I said, well, yes, I see her about every 3 months and take her fruit. She said, well, she has something she said she wants to confess to you. And I thought, what in the world, my music teacher going to confess? So I went out, and she held my hand, and she was on her deathbed. She says, Bob, do you remember in high school when I picked Judge Shannon's son to be the announcer for our glee club and turned you down? I says, I sure do remember that. She said, you were broken-hearted. I said, yes, I was. She said, for 40 years, I've listened to you and Jay on the Little Red Barn, and every morning when you're on, that comes to my mind, and I regret that I didn't pick you to be the announcer. Had I have done so, I would have felt that maybe I had a little part in your being a success in radio. So little did I think back when I was in the 8th grade at Harrison Hill School and my teacher turned me down, that 40 or 50 years later, she would be apologizing to me for not picking me to be the announcer. Those are some of the unusual things.
That makes me think, I'm a Catholic, and I come from a Catholic background. When you said confession, you just couldn't get away with that, could you? If you were
No.
Catholic, everybody
No.
knows your voice.
Well, I don't know. It's comical. Just like last night, my wife, when we're out, we're going to a straight, whether we're in Muncie, Indiana, or Coldwater, Michigan, or Ada, Ohio, and we're walking this, she'll say, now keep your voice down so nobody recognizes. Because somebody will come, and I don't think I'm using my announcing voice when I'm talking, but they remember. And
Well,
I
that's
always,
just your voice.
and I always have in my pocket here pictures, because they'll come up and want me to sign a paper napkin. I said, well, better than that, I'll give you a picture.
Oh, how nice. That's what I was going to ask you. How many times have you been able to go out and order a meal, or probably going through a drive-through is something you can't do,
Yeah.
that you have been able to sit down, order a meal, have people at the next table hear you, and not be interrupted? I mean, do you ever
Oh.
get to eat in peace?
Oh, well, yes, but the thing is, almost every time I'm out, because I've never learned to hold my voice down too much, I guess, but I don't mind that. I feel honored that they do remember. To me, it's a compliment.
I'll bet they do.
And rather than sign a paper napkin, I'll say, well, better than that, I'll give you a picture to chase the lice away when you get home.
Talking about your school, and you said that you went to Harrison Hill. I feel a kinship there because I volunteer for Junior Achievement, and that's the school I go to. And in fact,
Oh, it is?
I'm going to start doing that again in February for Mrs. Helmke, our mayor's
Oh,
wife.
yeah, sure.
Yes, for her class.
Well, I'll tell you about two things about Harrison Hill. First of all, I would have been the first student to walk in Harrison Hill, but a girl was walking up the sidewalk with me, and I opened the door and left her in.
Oh,
I was in the 3rd grade, I think, when Harrison Hill opened.
well, you were definitely the first gentleman to walk into Harrison Hill, weren't you?
No. But, and the only time I was ever in a play in my life was on the stage at Harrison Hill. And I had the part of Bad English.
Bad English?
And I only had one line in the play. They called me up in front of the judge, and they would say, Bad English, what do you have to say to the judge today? And my only line was, I ain't got nothing to say to nobody. So I remember the play I was in at Harrison Hill. I went to kindergarten in Southside High School.
Kindergarten at Southside High
And
School.
my teacher was Esther Erickson. And the 1st and 2nd grade, then at the 3rd grade, Harrison Hill was built. Then I went to Harrison Hill.
So then you went back. Oh, sure. I knew you were from Southside because I saw you at that big homecoming that they had a couple
yeah.
years ago, that 75th.
Yes.
When did you go to college?
No, I never had a day of college in my
Oh,
life.
you're kidding.
I wanted to go to college, but my father had died, and it was just mother and myself. And I learned by doing.
I bet you did.
And I've done everything that you can imagine.
Well, how did you and Jay Gould pair up and get together? Did you know
Well, you
each
see,
other? or-
well, Jay came while he came as the old songsmith. He taught boys and girls to sing. He was a good musician and a wonderful poetry writer, too, an author. But he came, then I got called away to the Navy, and I put in 4 years in World War II.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yes. And then I came back, and they said, Jay Gould is our farm director. And I about laughed my head off. I said, farm director? He's a song leader, and he always wore spats over his shoes. I bet you don't even know what spats are, do you?
Only because I was in marching band.
All right, okay. And he had glasses that would pinch on his nose. And I called him a, quote, stuffed shirt. Wonderful. I have the greatest respect for him, but I mean in those days. But when he said he was our farm director, I thought, my gosh, I don't think he even knows what a cow looks like. But Jay had about 6 different college degrees, and he was very, very active. And he'd get every day on his desk, he'd have all of the latest releases from all of the agricultural colleges. So he was getting his education every day. And he was just a brilliant man, even in farming. And if it wouldn't be for Jay, I would never be out speaking because he kept twisting my arm. I had to give the Gettysburg Address one time in school and was frightened, scared to death. And Jay said, Sievers, you got to get out and meet the people. This happened 3 years ago. At 1:25 in the morning on Sunday morning, I'm listening to WJR Detroit. And the announcer said, folks, we have some sad news to bring you tonight. He said, a fellow I grew up with, an announcer at WoWo in Fort Wayne, died yesterday, and his name was Bob Sievers. And,
Oh, dear.
Boy, if you think that didn't wake me up.
Start pinching yourself, I bet.
I started pinching myself. I think I'm still alive. So I thought, I can't let that go. So I called him up. I said, hi, is this so-and-so? Yeah. He said, who is this? I said, this is Bob Sievers. There was a long pause. He said, well, you sound like him. He says, where are you calling from? I said, I'm calling from heaven.
It's long distance. It's your
Yeah.
time.
But he got me mixed up with Jack Underwood.
Oh, right.
Jack Underwood had just died from Alzheimer's, and the lady got me mixed up, and she told him that I had died.
You guys were great friends all along, weren't you?
Oh, yes. In fact, to this day, my wife has dinner with Jack's wife, Pat, every Wednesday.
Well, you used to do that with him, didn't you?
I did that every Wednesday with him.
Because I remember there
I
were
still
times
go
I'd
out
see you at
every
Zoli's.
I still go out every Wednesday now. Yeah, you hit it, Zoli's. But Jack and I would alternate. We'd go to Lambros one Wednesday and Zoli's the next Wednesday. And then when Jack left us, some other of my buddies got together, and Ron Gregory and Don Chevrolet, a lot of us meet together on Wednesdays. They know I'm there every Wednesday. They don't make it every Wednesday. But
Now, Ron's a favorite of mine, too. I love his voice. I could just listen to him for hours.
well, and he's going through some hard times right now for a week. Do you know about that? His cat is sick, and that's his whole life. Rochester.
Oh, no.
And he had to take Rochester in for an operation, and we're pulling for Rochester.
Oh, well, we'll remember Rochester.
I told him, but I'm on the board of directors of the SPCA, and when Rochester does go to sleep finally, be sure to come out with the SPCA, and we'll fix you up.
Get you a new one.
But Ron is just a great fellow, and
Oh, he is.
he's a good showman.
How long were you and Jay together on the air?
About 40 years.
Oh, my.
And he always put me on. Oh, my mother didn't like him at all.
Oh, really?
She'd say, I heard that old Jay Gould, what he said about you today. I said, oh, Mom, he was just kidding. Jay is a showman. And anybody who is put down, the audience feels sorry for that person, and it builds them up.
That's right.
And he was being kind to me, but my mother couldn't understand that.
Did she ever get to meet him?
Oh, yes.
She straightened him out?
No. No, but she didn't like Jay the way he put me on. And then he would say things that could be taken two ways.
Like what? Can you remember?
Well, I have some examples, but I don't like to use them on the air. Because everybody else would take it the other way. So, but I would take it the other way and break down and laugh, And so there'd be a little humor. But yeah, a number of different things. I'd have to sort those out. But Jay liked to put me on, but that was the show. He said, we have to have fun in the morning, Sievers. We can't just read the price of corn and hogs and have a show out of it.
That's right.
So he was a showman.
Do you ever miss being on the radio? Would you like to go on again?
Oh, no. I tell you, I'm on enough now. I do commercials for different companies, and I'll hear myself on the air. But I enjoyed it. But now I get my kicks out of going around the area and speaking live to people and reminiscing about the old days. I don't think I would like a steady shift for over 50 years, from 51 on the air, 36 to 87. I was up at 2:30 every morning.
Oh, dear.
Minus the time I served twice in wars. I served 4 years in World War II. Then I was called back to serve 2 years during the Korean War.
And that was in the Navy both times?
Yes, Navy both times. But other than that, my seniority went on all the time with WOWO.
That first day of retirement, did it feel strange?
Yes, it really did. You know, I might mention, too, I never missed a day being sick that whole time.
Oh, you're kidding.
When I never was off sick. I was on the air one time with 104 fever, but I wouldn't go home because I didn't want to break my record.
Oh, Bob, you're a workaholic.
And Carl Vandergrift didn't like that at all, but the last hour he took me off the air. He said I sounded so bad, but I was there and worked my whole shift. But that's what I impress on young people in life. Do what you want to do in life. You'll feel worthwhile, and it won't be work, it'll be fun.
So the first morning that Bob Sievers didn't go to WOWO, what was that like?
Well, I think it was straight. You know, frankly, I don't remember it. I don't remember it.
I wonder if I asked Harriet what she would say.
She might know.
He wandered around this house.
Yeah. It took me a long time getting used to sleeping until maybe 6 o'clock in the morning.
All the way till 6.
Because I got up at 2:30 every morning, you know. And would stop down at Powers and have my cup of coffee. Never a hamburger at that time of the morning. But I know when I would get up early in the morning, even now, I go on the ham bands and have a microphone in front of me but talk on short wave. I enjoy that.
That was like early internet, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, right.
With its own special language and
Right.
code and everything. Tell me about Westinghouse Studios. That's who owned WOWO.
Well, I think our most beautiful studios were the ones on Harrison Street, right across from the parking lot, which was just north of the Keenan, before we moved around to the other building. We'd go up to the main lobby. Westinghouse appliances were on the first floor. We'd go up to the main lobby on the second floor, and here was a photo mural of a huge microphone and coils and tubes, and radio was really classy. And we had two beautiful studios, Studio A and Studio B, and it was really first-class broadcasting in those days.
And then you moved from that studio to
Around the corner to the
Gaskin Building? Was that the Gaskin Building?
Building, yes. I couldn't think of the name. And then we were there for a long time, well, till we moved to the Central Building.
Who came up with the famous WOWO fire escape?
Ron Gregory.
Did he really?
Yeah. Ron Gregory would talk to Bodie the janitor, and
Yes, Bodie. Great.
when they call me Mr. WOWO, and I have to credit Jack Underwood with that. We'd go to all of our basketball games, and he would introduce me as the coach of the WOWO Aces, Mr. WOWO himself, Bob Sievers. So I'm indebted to Jack Underwood for that.
Yep, and I think that's the first time I saw you in person was at a WOWO Air Aces game.
Is that right?
Yes, and it was, and you know, it's always funny, and I wonder how many people ever came up to you and said, "You don't look like you sound."
Yeah, I know.
People get an idea.
You know, when I was speaking, a lady would say, "You don't look like you sound at all," and I'll say, "Well, you don't look like I thought you looked either."
With all that you have seen in the past, and here we are at 1999, the last year of the 1900s, and we're ready to go into the 2000s. What would you like to see in the next millennium happen, whether it's in broadcasting or just in life in general, any kind of an event or transition?
Well,
or...
I would like to see, first of all, peace all over the world. Putting down all the racial problems, and we all have to live. So I would like to see peace, and I would like to have poverty done away with.
And hunger.
And hunger. I don't know, and the pollution problem solved somehow.
Does radio have a place in that, or broadcasting in general? Is there a way that that medium can be used to help bring those dreams about, do you think?
I hope it will have a part of it. I really don't know. Jane, before I leave you today, I have 4 letters, and I have baskets of these at home, and in my drawer there, telegrams from a lot of the famous stars. But Here are just 4 letters I'm going to read to you, and just part of them. Dear Bob, may I take this opportunity to extend best wishes and congratulations as you celebrate your 40th anniversary at WOWO. This is my 40th there then. I understand that you have not missed a single day on the air since 1936, with the exception of your military service. You are certainly to be recognized and commended for the outstanding quality of your radio programs and dynamic vocal announcing ability. With kindest personal regards, Otis R. Bowen, M.D., Governor for the state of Indiana.
I'll be darned.
And here was one from a little 12-year-old boy who grew up listening to me. Dear Bob, many congratulations and best wishes for a healthy and happy retirement. You will be sorely missed on the airwaves, but I am sure that the love and goodwill you have brought to your Fort Wayne community will continue for many ways. You and Harriet, he even knew my wife's name, can sit back now and reap the rewards of your almost 50 years with WOWO Radio. Enjoy all of the fishing and traveling you have planned. Best wishes, Dan Quayle.
Oh, wow.
I have just 2 more. One, dear Mr. Sievers, my warmest congratulations on your 40th anniversary of continuous service to radio listeners throughout the states of Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. I can readily understand the respect and affection in which you are held by your many fans. I welcome the opportunity to join them on this occasion in applauding your important contribution to the positive influence of broadcasting on our national life. Sincerely, Gerald R. Ford, President of the United States.
I'll be darned.
And just one more. Dear Mr. Sievers, congratulations on your retirement. Almost 50 years of service with WOWO Radio. Yours has been a career marked by outstanding dedication and achievement, earning the respect of your colleagues and your listening audience. As a former member of the broadcast fraternity, I know you have played a vital role in your community. Nancy joins me in sending warm best wishes. Sincerely,
Ronald Reagan.
there it is.
I'll be darned. Those have to be pretty special, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Well, now, Bob, it strikes me, everything we talked about, you know, you worked as a youngster delivering papers, you begged to work at WOWO, and finally they were wise enough to bring you on, and you went to the Navy. Have you ever not worked?
No, I've never been out of a job a day in my life, really.
Never been out of work.
No.
Are you a workaholic?
Well, when I speak to teenagers in school, I tell them, whatever you work at, do what you love to do. Then it isn't work, it's fun. If I were a millionaire, I'd have worked all those years for nothing, you know, because I enjoyed my work. So, but there's only one bad thing about that.
What's that?
If you really love your work and love your enjoyment in life, the years go by so fast. As I said on the air one time, it seems like all I do is put up and take down the Christmas tree. If you really love your work, that's how fast time goes by.
Right. So is retirement difficult, or?
Oh, no, I'm still out speaking about, 100 times or 150 times a year. And I'm on about 8 boards of directors helping in the community. So I never have really a dull day.
So you didn't really retire, you just don't work at WOWO anymore.
Yeah, well, yes.
You're still
But
at
I still
it.
cut commercials and enjoy helping people out. In 1947, I received a letter from a mother down south said, Bob, my son and I listen to you and Jay every morning on the Little Red Barn, and we hear your song of inspiration at 6:15 in the morning. And my son has just recorded a hymn. We would feel so honored if you and Jay would play in the morning. And this was just before tape was invented. And in those days, the first record was acetate on aluminum, the first record. Then the mother record, the stamper was made for that, and they stamped the records out. And on one side was the hymn, How Great Thou Art, and the other side was the hymn, Softly and Tenderly. Well, I always loved How Great Thou Art, and so, and I had helped dozens of young people get started in radio. So I had this young 12-year-old boy singing How Great Thou Art. But his name meant nothing to me. So after I played it, I know they were happy, so I threw the letter away. And but it was good enough, I put it in my mailbox, and about every 10 days for about 3 months, I would bring it out and put it on the air and have this young boy singing How Great Thou Art. And then after that 3 months, oh, I got the greatest thank you letter from his mother. Oh, Bob, thank you so much. We couldn't get anybody down here to play his records. We are so eternally grateful to you. But it made me feel good, but I threw that letter away. About 5 years later, I received a call from a mother in Mississippi. She said, Bob, I'm 5 years late in thanking you, but you helped our little neighborhood boy down the street get his first start in radio. You were the only one who played his first record on the radio, and we are eternally grateful to you. And the shocking thing is, in my most regretful experience, the letter I threw away in the wastebasket was a letter from none other than the mother of Elvis Presley.
Oh, you're kidding.
And how I wish I had that letter now and that first acetate record of How Great Thou Art.
Oh, yes. That was a sweet memory. What other memories do you have of Fort Wayne that stand out, that, you know, when you think back to the best things about Fort Wayne, what are they?
Well, first of all, I always, as a younger person, liked to go visit Santa at Wolf and Dessauer's downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And my favorite Chinese restaurant was the Golden Dragon.
Where was that at?
Right out here near where we are now, on it was on the Goshen Road, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Between here and the Boulevard. And now there are many, many, many Chinese restaurants in Fort Wayne, but the lady who built the Golden Dragon, I had dinner at her Golden Dragon in Hong Kong one night.
Oh, my.
But I remember going there. I remember Christmas shopping downtown and all of the crowds. Now everything is out at the centers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, the greatest tragedy I can remember, and I have their name in a drawer at home someplace, the mother and father and 10 children, right around Christmas time, their buggy was struck at Graybill, Indiana, right there near Souders Home Center. And it killed every one of them. And the caskets were lined up at the Gospel Temple, the mother and father, and the casket, each one getting smaller, the youngest child.
Oh.
All in one family. That's the greatest tragedy I remember in Fort Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how things have changed. The old Lutheran Hospital on Fairfield Avenue and the Dumoulin Clinic then, the old building.
Mm-hmm.
I remember how I would always walk to Foster Park to fish in the river, and I can remember when Rudisill Boulevard, east of Lafayette Street, was all mud. I can remember when it was being paved.
Oh, wow.
And the thing, I remember, this sounds funny, but from Rudisill Boulevard south, in the spring of the year, the favorite fun of all of our neighborhood children was to roam through the fields and collect garter snakes.
Oh, dear.
We'd have an old nail keg full of garter snakes. Now, I don't think there's a garter snake in Fort Wayne.
And I'm glad for that.
I am too, but we had fun with them in those days. I never was afraid of them until one day we would throw them at each other, and one wrung itself around my neck and went down inside of my shirt, and was down around my waist, and that put some kind of a chill on me that from that time on I've been afraid of snakes.
I don't doubt that for one moment.
But I remember the old number 11 firehouse at Rudisill and Lafayette. Every time the fire engines got a call, I'd run down and ask, Mr. Epley was his name. Fire Chief Epley, where was the fire? And I was the kid bothering him again. He'd always say, oh, it was a rail fence down the road. But I remember that firehouse starting. I remember, well, a bad plane crash, which is Southgate Plaza now. It was just a man in a single plane. The wing fell off of the plane. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but anyway, I have lots of memories of Fort Wayne, but I just...
What about Harriet? How did you meet her? I mean, we've all heard about Harriet over the years on the radio, and as I said before we sat down here, she must be one of the patient, most tolerant people, because she had, and your daughter had to share you with thousands of people all these years.
You know,
how did you meet her? And
well, first of all, my daughter has been asked to write an article about me. She won't let me read it. She went through drawers and got pictures of me for this Waynedale paper that comes out every week.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one.
So in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be, so I haven't read this story yet, but I met Harriet. She sang in the choir at the Gospel Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And I met her through being associated early days in radio.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't go to school together? Or?
Oh, no. She graduated from Elmhurst.
Mm-hmm. I'll be darned.
But I said on the air one day, my whole life is made up of females. I have a wife, 2 daughters, 4 granddaughters, and a girl, dog, and cat. No, she's had to put up a lot, and the phone rings a lot at home, but she's a very caring wife.
You know, my dad grew up in Wilshire, Ohio, and a big
Oh, yeah.
deal for him as a kid and young man was to come to Fort Wayne. And he would talk about going to the St. Liver Park and different places like that. Where
And
were
Triers was the park.
There
the
you
roller
go.
coaster at Triers, and the airplanes that would just fly over the red hot trees and skim the leaves.
And you got quite a kick out of that too.
Oh,
huh?
yes, that was a favorite fun spot for me to go to Triers Park. Now, I'd hear my mother talk about Robinson Park out on the northeast side on the way to Leo,
Oh, uh-huh.
out on the St. Joe River. But that was long gone before I was around.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite park was Triers Park in the Fund House.
I'll be darned. And did you go dancing as a teenager or young man? And
Oh, no, I was too bashful.
Oh, how can a man who's been on radio all these years and want to be still be bashful? Because you
Yeah.
are. Even now you're bashful.
I still, deep down inside, I am still bashful.
I can tell.
When I before I get up to speak, I'm all nervous, just like I was the little boy at Harrison Hill giving the Gettysburg Address, worrying about it. Mm-hmm. You don't know how I worried about this dog.
Oh, bless your heart.
But anyway, of all the travels in the world, as I said, it's always a pleasure to get back home to Fort Wayne.
Did you ever want to live any place other than Fort Wayne?
Oh, no.
Good for you.
My wife and daughters both are in love with Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
They'd move out there in a minute, but no, I was born and raised on Clay Street, now Avondale Drive. Then I moved to Sherwood Terrace and lived there for 33 years near the St. John the Baptist Catholic Church in South Fairfield, and moved from there to Winterset. And from a little boy, I would walk from my home on Clay Street to either St. Mary's River, either at Foster Park or out with the Stowhorn Bridge. So my whole life has been in that end of town.
Wow. That's been great for you.
Well, Fort Wayne has really done well with me, and I love it. Jane, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, it has been a pleasure too, Bob.
I hope I didn't bore you.
You did not bore me a single solitary bit. I'm just glad you could join us.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening too. And I know that, like myself, you enjoyed this special evening and conversation with Bob Sievers. For all of us here at PBS 39, I'm Jane Avery Doswell. Thank you and good night.